Yay, the Honorable Supreme Court of Tennessee is now in session. The Honorable Connie Clark presiding. God save the United States of America and the state of Tennessee. Justice Clark.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I welcome you to the first of 5 sessions that are being conducted, one by each member of our Tennessee Supreme Court this week, as we welcome and swear in lawyers who have recently passed the February Bar Association or bar examination or are otherwise coming into the practice of law in Tennessee. We also welcome parents, friends, and others who we understand are watching by live stream on YouTube this morning. And we appreciate your taking the time and finding the way that we can do this in a meaningful way. The court has never, though we have done individual ceremonies in June for several years, we have never done it in this fashion. But as with everything else, we are trying to find alternative ways to do something that we feel is very meaningful, to bring us together, to celebrate your successes today and to welcome you to the practice of law in Tennessee. And so I am appearing from Nashville, and Laura Baker, who will be joining me later, is president of the National Bar Association and appears from Nashville. But we know today, unlike our regular geographic sessions, that we have persons on this call who are from all over the state of Tennessee, and we welcome all of you, and we hope this is going to be a good day for you. We do not have geographic boundaries in the process that we will follow today. I want to say to you just a few words before we get started, because you are the group of people who are joining the legal profession, at least in Tennessee, whether you're just out of law school or come here from practice in other places, in the most turbulent of times that we have ever experienced in this country. We are still in an international health pandemic, and that inevitably, if you came straight out of school, has changed your 3L year. It has most likely deprived you of a formal graduation ceremony, at least yet. It may required you to do some learning from home in your last semester. It meant that you may not have gotten to see your friends or do the traditional end of the year and end of law school experiences that you would otherwise have created. And it's also, to some extent, I think, depriving folks of the opportunity to get the first choice jobs that might otherwise have been available. So you are going out into the world in a time of uncertainty. At the same time, in our country, racial discrimination, pain, injustice, and the responses to those things are testing all of our understanding of the rule of law and of basic principles of decency. And those are the bedrocks of the issues that you bring when you come into the practice of law. Even our Tennessee Supreme Court's focus on access to justice initiatives themselves have been forced to evolve as we learn to socially distance, to respect, and to protect each other and ourselves while we are still trying to serve those so many people in this state and other places who need our legal assistance. I know that self-isolation and fear have invaded our psyches as we have been through these situations, and they can really do a tap dance on your mental health and on your well-being. And yet, I applaud you and I welcome you today with hope, because we need you now more than ever, because our most basic assumptions about what equal justice even is are under attack. Being safe cannot mean being absent from the hard road we must travel and the hard discussions we must have about what justice for all really means. You come today and become part of the first responders in many of these situations. A community, a state, or a nation's success or failure in achieving justice for all is judged in part by how well it responds to our most vulnerable citizens, to those at the bottom and the margins of our social order. Those of us in positions of influence and power, and you join that group today if you've not already been a part of it, cannot be comfortable and can never be complacent with the status quo. However strong we think our ideal foundations are, however strong we hope our legal and political institutions are, we have to acknowledge that our societies are far from perfect, and we must strive every day to protect them. Dr. Martin Luther King reminded us that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And so I say to you, members of the legal profession have to be the first responders in this and any other similar crisis. You're going to join a host of other good people today who've been granted the privilege of the right to practice law. You today become part of the future of our profession. You are first responders, and you are the persons who now can be sure that our system has the conversation it needs to have and recreates and betters itself in many, many ways. What will be written in the future about the vitality, the integrity, and the success or failure of our legal system in Tennessee and elsewhere now depends, at least in part, on what you do after today. I applaud all of you in this room who stepped forward today to take up that cause of justice for all persons, especially the marginalized. And I ask, I request, I require that you carry that proudly to the wider community. I welcome you to this noble profession. I offer my congratulations to you and your families, and I believe we are now ready to proceed. Mr. Hibner. I will say to everyone here that we have 17 or 18 persons who are scheduled to be sworn in now. We will take first those persons who are going to be introduced by individual sponsors of their own choice, and we'll do this generally in alphabetical order. When those persons have completed their motion to admit, and I have granted those motions, we will introduce Laura Baker, President of the National Bar Association, who will handle the swearings in for all the other persons who are with us today. And only when everyone has been individually admitted so that your parents can see that and record it, will we then as a group take the oath to become an attorney. So don't turn off or leave when your own individual motion is complete. We will go all the way and hopefully move quickly and efficiently through the entire program. Mr. Hibner, who is our first person to be sworn in?
Mr. Songstead is going to introduce Mr. Allen first.
All right, Mr. Songstead, then I will turn it over to you.
Morning, Your Honor. May it please the court, I am Randall Songstead. I'm a member of the Tennessee Bar, and I would like to introduce Mr. David Allen.
And I assume in making that introduction, you are certifying to us that Mr. Allen has completed all the requirements that are necessary to be admitted to the Bar of Tennessee. And so, Mr. Allen, I am very pleased to grant your motion and to welcome you to the practice of law in Tennessee. Mr. Songstead, thank you very much for being with us as well.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Phillips.
May it please the court, I'm W. Allen Phillips. I'm a member of the Nashville Bar. I'd like to introduce Amy Michael Little. Ms. Little is a graduate of the Belmont University College of Law and a member of the in-house staff, legal staff at Lifeway Christian Resources. Ms. Little has successfully completed all the requirements to practice law before this bar, and I therefore move for Amy Michael Little's admission to practice before this court in the courts of Tennessee.
Mr. Phillips, I am pleased to grant your motion, and Ms. Little, I welcome you to the practice of law in Tennessee. We are glad to have you as a member of our bar.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. At this time, I believe, I'll first ask, is there anyone else who has an individual sponsor that they would like to introduce them? I hear and see no one, and so I will ask that we be joined now by Laura Baker. Laura is a shareholder in the law offices of John Day. She practices law here in Nashville and she currently serves as president of the Nashville Bar Association. And we are delighted that she is able to join us this morning. Laura, good morning. Is there anything you would like to say to the assembled group?
Thank you, Justice Clark. May it please the court. I'm a member of the Nashville and the Tennessee Bar, and I'm proud to be here on behalf of the Nashville Bar Association. I join Justice Clark's comments from the beginning of this session in encouraging all of you as the newest lawyers of the Tennessee Bar to take seriously your charge as lawyers to ensure equal justice for all, and to use the energy that I know that you have right now at the start of your career and as you embark on the practice of law to think of and work on ways to institute change, particularly when it comes to racial injustice in this country.
Thank you.
And Justice,
Go ahead.
And now, may it please the court, I would like to introduce Colton Lee Adams.
All right, we're taking just a moment to be sure we can get the screen focused on our next applicant. So there, Mr. Adams, good morning. Ms. Baker, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Colton Lee Adams is a graduate of the University of Kentucky College of Law, and he will be working with the United States District Court for the Eastern District of Kentucky. Mr. Adams has successfully completed all the requirements to practice law before this bar, and I therefore move for Colton Lee Adams' admission to practice law before this court and the courts of Tennessee.
Ms. Baker, I'm very pleased to grant your motion. Mr. Adams, congratulations to you. Welcome to the practice of law in Tennessee.
Thank
you. All right.
Your Honor, I'd like to now introduce Philip John Andrews. Mr. Andrews is a graduate at the University of Colorado Law School. He has successfully completed all the requirements to practice law before this bar. I therefore move for his admission to practice before this court and the courts of Tennessee.
Ms. Baker, I'm very pleased to grant that motion. And Mr. Andrews, congratulations to you. Welcome to the practice of law in Tennessee.
you, Your Honor.
Honor, I would like to introduce Laura Barfield Baxter. Ms. Baxter is in Franklin, Tennessee. She's a graduate of Mercer Law School. She has successfully completed all the requirements to practice law before this bar, and I therefore move the court for Laura Barfield Baxter's admission to practice before this court and the courts of Tennessee.
Ms. Baker, I'm very pleased to grant that motion. And Ms. Baxter, congratulations to you. I'm very happy to welcome you to the practice of law in Tennessee.
Thank you, Justice Clark. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Your Honor, I would like to introduce Derek Bedoin. Derek is a graduate of Mercer University Law School, and he has successfully completed all the requirements to practice law before this court. I therefore move for his admission to practice before this court and the courts of the state of Tennessee.
Ms. Baker, I'm pleased to grant that motion, and I'll just reconfirm, Mr. Bedoin, is that the correct pronunciation of your name?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Then we welcome you to the practice of law in Tennessee. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Your Honor, I'd next like to introduce Colby Davis. Colby graduated from Vanderbilt University for undergraduate and completed law school at UCLA School of Law, and where she graduated Order of the Coif and was ranked #2 in her class. She has successfully completed all the requirements to practice law before this bar. Sorry, and actually, I need to start over, Your Honor. And this is a great lesson for young lawyers that sometimes
there are hazards when you are doing this remotely and you're not standing next to the person. So, Mr. Davis, we see you now. Ms. Baker, let's start from the top on that.
Quite all right.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Davis, my apologies. Your Honor, I would like to introduce Colby Davis. Mr. Davis graduated from Vanderbilt University here in Nashville. He did law school at UCLA and was Order of the Coif, graduating #2 in his class overall. Mr. Davis has completed all of the requirements to practice law before this bar, and I therefore move for this court's admission of Mr. Davis to practice before this court and the courts of the state of Tennessee.
Ms. Baker, I'm pleased to grant that motion. Mr. Davis, I do congratulate you and welcome you to the practice of law in Tennessee.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Your Honor, I would next like to introduce Janae Pearl Davis.
Okay, we see, good morning.
I was going to say order may be a little off. Your Honor, I'd like to introduce Janae Pearl Davis. Ms. Davis lives here in Nashville, Tennessee. She graduated law school at Southern Illinois University. She's completed all of the requirements to practice before this bar. Moved for her admission to practice before this court and the court of the state of Tennessee.
Ms. Baker, I'm pleased to grant that motion. And Ms. Davis, I congratulate you and welcome you to the practice of law in Tennessee.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Now, Your Honor, I would like to introduce Tiara Brown. Ms. Brown is a resident of Red Boiling Springs, Tennessee. She completed her law degree at the University of Louisville Brandeis School of Law. She has completed all of the requirements to practice law before this bar, and I therefore move for her admission to practice law before this court and the courts of the state of Tennessee.
Ms. Baker, I'm delighted to grant that motion. And Ms. Brown, congratulations to you. We welcome you to the practice of law in Tennessee.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Your Honor, next, I would like to introduce Micah James East. Micah graduated law school at Mercer University School of Law. He was on the law review and also Phi Delta Phi. He will be practicing at Dozier Law Firm in Macon, Georgia. Mr. East has successfully completed all the requirements to practice before this bar, and I therefore move for his admission to practice before this court and the courts of the state of Tennessee.
Ms. Baker, I'm pleased to grant that motion. Mr. East, congratulations to you. Welcome to the practice of law in Tennessee. Even if you are mostly practicing in Georgia, we are glad to have you as a part of our family as well.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Next, I'd like to introduce Catherine Eaton.
Mr. East, you just get to be starlighted for a moment until we locate the next picture. And I really appreciate our technology people who are helping us with this today. Good morning.
Your Honor, Miss Eaton lives here in Nashville, Tennessee. She completed her law degree at Nova Southeastern University in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. She's been a member of the Florida Bar since 1999, but she has now successfully completed all the requirements to practice before this bar, and I move for her admission to practice before this court and the courts of the state of Tennessee.
Ms. Baker, I'm pleased to grant your motion. Ms. Eaton, you are not a newcomer to the practice of law, but we do welcome you to the Tennessee Bar.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Your Honor, next I'd like to introduce John Douglas Elrod. Mr. Elrod actually completed undergraduate at the University of the South in Sewanee, and he completed his law degree at Cumberland School of Law at Samford University. Mr. Elrod will be practicing at Greenberg Traurig, and he has successfully completed all of the requirements to practice law here in the state of Tennessee, and therefore I move for his admission to practice before this court and the other courts here in Tennessee.
Ms. Baker, I'm very pleased to grant that motion, and Mr. Elrod, congratulations. I do welcome you to the practice of law in Tennessee.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Your Honor, I'd like to introduce Jared Patrick Green. Mr. Green completed his law degree at Atlanta's John Marshall Law School. He is a Dean John Ryan Scholar. He was vice president of the Law School Federalist Society chapter and a judge and panelist for regional high school mock trial competitions. Mr. Green has successfully completed all the requirements to practice here in the state of Tennessee, and I move for his admission to practice before this court and the other courts in Tennessee.
Ms. Baker, I'm pleased to grant that motion. And Mr. Green, I also welcome you to the practice of law in Tennessee.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Your Honor, next I'd like to introduce William Johnson. Mr. Johnson resides in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. He completed his law degree at Southwestern University School of Law, graduating cum laude, and he will be practicing with Quintaros, Prieto, Wood, and Boyer in Nashville. He has successfully completed all the requirements to practice before this bar, and I move for his admission to practice before this court and the courts of Tennessee.
Ms. Baker, I am pleased to grant that motion. And Mr. Johnson, congratulations. I welcome you to the practice of law in Tennessee.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Your Honor, I'd like to introduce Victoria Rarlson. Ms. Rarlson completed undergraduate at the University of Tennessee in Knoxville. She completed her law degree at Lincoln Memorial University Duncan School of Law. She has completed all of the requirements to practice law in the state of Tennessee, and I move for her admission to practice before this court and the other courts of Tennessee.
Ms. Baker, I'm pleased to grant that motion. Ms. Rawlerson, is that the correct pronunciation of your name? Okay, we want to get it right on this special day. Thank you so much, and we appreciate you and welcome you to the practice of law in Tennessee.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Your Honor, I'd like to introduce Paulette Lopez. Ms. Lopez is a resident of Tennessee. She completed her undergraduate degree at Williams College and her law degree at the University of California School of Law. She has completed all of the requirements to practice law in the state of Tennessee, and I move for her admission to practice before this court and the other courts of Tennessee.
Ms. Baker, I'm pleased to grant that motion. Ms. Lopez, congratulations to you. Welcome to the practice of law in Tennessee.
Thank you.
Your Honor, I'm happy to introduce Michael Jefferson Talley. Mr. Talley completed undergraduate at Lindsey Wilson College and completed his law degree at the University of Dayton School of Law. Mr. Talley has completed all of the requirements to practice law in the state of Tennessee, and I move for his admission to practice before this court and the courts of Tennessee.
Ms. Baker, I'm very pleased to grant that motion. Mr. Talley, congratulations to you. We welcome you to the practice of law in Tennessee.
Your Honor, I'm pleased to introduce Michelle Yang. Ms. Yang completed her undergraduate studies at Emory University and her law degree at the University of Georgia School of Law. She has successfully completed all the requirements to practice law in the state of Tennessee, and I move for her admission to practice before this court and the courts of Tennessee.
Ms. Baker, I'm pleased to grant your motion, and Ms. Yang, congratulations to you. Welcome to the practice of law in Tennessee.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Ms. Baker, are there any other folks that you are aware of are presenting themselves?
Your Honor, I believe those are all the applicants.
All right, Mr. Hibner, do you know of anyone else?
No, Your Honor, that's all for this session.
All right. Then I believe that we are ready to proceed to the actual taking of the oath. And although I've adjusted my screen, I'd actually like when we start the oath to have a gallery view because I'd like as many parents and friends as possible who are looking at this to be able to see their individual persons rather than focusing on me. So I'm going to ask all of you right now if you will raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your full name.
I, Mr. Green,
Do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
That I will
That I will
support
support
the
Constitution of the United
Constitution of
States.
the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Tennessee,
and
and the Constitution of the State of Tennessee,
Tennessee,
in the practice of my profession.
in the
The
practice
practice of my profession.
I will conduct myself
I will conduct
I will conduct myself
with honesty,
With
with
honesty,
honesty,
fairness,
fairness,
integrity,
integrity,
and civility
and
ability,
to the best of my skill and abilities.
to the best of my
with my skill and abilities.
So help me God.
so
So
help
help
me
me
God.
God.
To God.
Thank you. You may put down your hands. I congratulate you all. You have now officially been sworn in as members of the Tennessee Bar. And I ask you to think about and look again at the oath you have just taken. A year ago, we added to the oath that had been in place for a long time the word civility, as well as your promises concerning honesty, fairness, and integrity. Because again, we are in a time when all of those things are vitally important. And you now become the newest and maybe most visible representatives of a profession that we strive every day to make better. So with congratulations to you, with thanks to your parents and relatives and friends who supported you to get you to this place, I believe we are now concluded with these proceedings. Mr. Hivner, if you will adjourn court.
This honorable court is now adjourned.